Hi everyone, and welcome back to the studio. So, as you can tell from the title of this video, I'm going to be talking about the Woobles. Now, I did reach out to TikTok and Instagram, and I got a couple of opinions on both. I'll wash my hands real quick. Just so I could have like a rounded discussion, or make this video like more of a rounded starting point for discussion about the Woobles, because as you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, I'm kind of trying to approach the subject of, is it becoming too expensive? Is it kind of becoming the, I hate saying this because it's like fast fashion is such a specific thing, but is it kind of becoming the crochet crafting equivalent of fast fashion? I don't think it is, but at the same time it's like, it feels like it's getting there. But again, I have, like I said, I did reach out to Instagram and TikTok, got some opinions there, and I also have tried to look at various opinions. I only have like 2 Reddit threads, linked down below in the description, but I have looked at various Reddit threads and posts and blog posts about opinions on the Woobles, like I said, so I could give something more rounded as a starting point for discussion about this, because I kind of feel like we need to talk about this a little bit. So essentially my reasoning for this kind of a thought process and discussion started when they announced and released their Lord of the Rings kits. And I am a big Lord of the Rings fan. I love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, the books, the movies. I love it. Rings of Power is a different story. I do not talk about that. It is not good, but we're not talking about that today. But they released their they released some Lord of the Rings patterns. Now, first and foremost, I don't think people or human-esque characters or figures, I don't think those work well with the Woobles style. Are they cute? Yes. Gollum is just freaky no matter what. I love Gollum. He's hilarious. But, and Andy Serkis is hilarious, but Gollum, freaky no matter what. Like, they are cute. Like, I'm looking at the website right now. Like, Frodo and Gandalf are cute. I feel like Gandalf works better because he has a beard and longer hair. But overall, human figures, human-esque, humanoid figures, I hope they don't go to Star Trek. Not putting that out there into the world. Woobles, if you're watching this, no Star Trek, please. That would just be too weird. Anyway, like, on the whole, I just think that human-esque, humanoid figures do not work very well with the Wooble style. Like, I thought so when they did the Harry Potter set, and I still think so. I think like their fairies ones are cute because they're supposed to not look very human-esque. Like, they have human-esque features, but it's not supposed to look very human, you know? So, and like Minecraft works because, again, those aren't necessarily human figures. I think the only human-esque figures that worked were the Powerpuff Girls, just because they are cartoons. But if you're going for live action, I don't think it works as well, just because it's like, I know there's the animated Hobbit movie, and there's the animated Lord of the Rings one. I don't watch the animated Lord of the Rings. But anyway, getting back to the point, essentially the consensus on TikTok and Instagram was that even though it is good for beginners, this was sort of alluded to on TikTok and Instagram, but I read this, I think, on Reddit somewhere, how you're not necessarily buying these Wooble kits for the materials themselves. You're not buying it for the yarn, for the polyfill, for the hooks, for the wee woobly bits, as they call it, like stitch markers, threading needles. You're not buying the Woobles kits for those. You're buying the kits for the convenience of the kits, for the idea of the kits, which I 100% agree with. But there's a fine line between buying for convenience, which I think does kind of add into, again, like I said, I don't like really comparing it to the fast fashion industry, but I think like buying for, or like setting these kits up just for the convenience of the kits, and then having people buy the kits for the convenience, I think that kind of adds to this whole fast fashion look of it, at least for me, at least in my opinions. And again, like, I don't like comparing it to fast fashion, but at the same time, I've heard so many little stories from the crochet community, knitting community, fiber art, and any other fiber art crafting community, like embroidery or cross stitch, where they'll gift something to someone and it ends up in the trash, or like being being re-gifted, and then like somehow it just ends up in the trash, and whether it was by accident or design. And it's, again, like, those are very rare cases, but they have happened. And because acrylic yarn is cheaper, it's like how quickly let me actually look how quickly acrylic does yarn break down. So acrylic yarn breaks down very slowly, taking hundreds of years to fully decompose in a landfill due to its acrylic nature. And wool or natural fibers, different story. I'm all for using acrylic yarn if you have to, because it's cheap for a reason, you know, and fiber crafts, yarn crafts can be very expensive. And, you know, sometimes the best thing to do is to buy acrylic yarn. And more often than not, like, many people within the fiber crafts and yarn crafts communities, they are trying to buy yarn at discounts. It's why, like, the Joann's closing, like, with Joann's closing, it's why so many people are going, because there's so many discounts. And crafters, especially crafters who sell, are really trying to take advantage of those discounts so that they can factor in the discount price into the price of whatever they're selling, if they sell. But again, kind of getting back on track, like, with things like acrylic yarn or synthetic yarn in general, it will take a while for it to break down. And that's also, like, another reason why it kind of does. What is Woobles yarn made of? Let's take, okay, 75% cotton and 25% nylon. Okay, nylon, just to, okay, so it's another type of synthetic material. I was just double checking. Okay, let's see, how long does nylon take to decompose? So nylon is a better alternative to acrylic, because here it's saying like it can take 30 to 40 years, where acrylic was like it could take hundreds of years. However, it's still like, you know, it kind of makes sense why people hate on acrylic, but like because of the damage acrylic and synthetic fibers do to the environment. But at the same time, it's like a slight tangent. At the same time, it's a situation where you have to understand where people are coming from in terms of what they can or cannot afford, especially when it's just their hobby. Like if you were crafting, if you were doing crochet or knitting or any other craft as your job, as your career, and you've already established your small business and you get a lot of sales, you get a lot of income coming in from your small business, then it is easier for you to spend a little bit more money on better quality products and natural products. However, if you're looking at someone who's just starting up a small business and they're trying to get stuff out fast, well, not quite fast, but if they're still trying to make products to list on Etsy or to make for farmers markets or craft markets or craft fairs, like they're gonna need to buy as much yarn as possible at a relatively cheap price. So that means either sales or going for synthetic yarns or synthetic fiber materials. So, and that is something that needs to be considered, and I feel like we need to, at least from the perspective of a monetary standard, we can't hate as much on people who mainly use yarn that is made from synthetic fibers, especially like I said, if they're a small business just getting started up, or they've had trouble getting traction in their sales, because there are so many small businesses out there that do similar things. And also, if you look at someone who's just doing it as a hobby, like they're not necessarily going to have the time, space, or money to have, or the equipment to have, store, and keep natural fabric, natural yarn, because that takes some time, and it doesn't take very special equipment, because you can store natural fabrics and yarn with the very, very basics, but you do need to take some preventatives against, I'm only thinking of like moths and stuff, but there are multiple factors that you need to take preventatives against. But that was my tangent. I have thought this video out, you guys, and I've thought about what I wanted to say and talk about. It's just, I kind of don't like making videos like this, but at the same time, I feel like we do need to talk about it, because there needs to be a balance, I feel, especially in the crafting communities, when it's kind of, it basically is 50-50 as to whether or not someone's doing it to make money, whether it's as their main form of income or as a side income. It's 50-50 as their, it's 50-50 whether or not they're making this stuff, doing the yarn craft, crocheting, knitting, whatever it is, or any other craft, whether they're doing it to make an income or they're just doing it as a hobby. So that's where I'll end that. But getting back on the topic of the Woobles specifically, so looking through some of the prices, a single kit like Pierre the Penguin, Fred the Dinosaur, Bamboo the Panda, Bandit the Raccoon, I think is the raccoon's name. The donut, like if you look at the individual characters or items, those are usually going to be $30 unless the Woobles had to buy a license. If you look at Lord of the Rings, so they have an option for Lord of the Rings where it's Gollum and a little fish, Frodo and Sting, Gandalf and his staff, the Balrog and the whip. Those are all normally $45. When I'm looking at this right now, they're $47. Balrog is $52, but discounted right now for $50. Maybe because there's more parts to it. Anyway. But if you look at just Gollum, just Frodo, just Gandalf, or just Balrog, Gollum, Frodo, and Gandalf are $40, and then the Balrog is $45. So those aren't too bad, and those aren't on sale right now. However, if you look at like the box sets, so there is the Lord of the Rings Wooble Them All bundle, and that is $193 normally. The launch week sale is $165, but it's $193 normally. And this includes Gollum and the fish, some special crochet hooks that are Lord of the Rings specific. It includes all the yarns for Gollum and the fish, Frodo and Sting, Gandalf and his staff, the Balrog and its whip. And it includes like wee woobly bits as well. So normally $193. Right now it's discounted for $165. And then if you look at the Lord of the Rings collector's box, and this includes a special edition box. I have no idea. It has the Mines of Moria door thingy. So, and this has Gandalf and his staff, the Balrog and its whip, Frodo and Sting, Gollum and his fish, an extra special additional crochet hook, and then a little pouch. So it has a lot of extra little details. And this one is this one on sale? Let's see. Okay, so this one's right now it's saying launch week sale, but it's not showing like a discounted price. But it looks like the main price is $195. Now, I'm okay with the price because it is this launch week. And if you look at other bundles like the Harry Potter, the Powerpuff Girls, it's been a year plus for some of those other bundles. But my main issue with the pricing for this one is the $2 difference. And again, yes, it's not that much of a difference between the two purchases that you can do. Not a lot of differences, but it's like if you are going to make two separate purchases for like bundles, if you're going to make two separate bundles, have the one with just the kids be significantly less, not $2 less. And again, it's like, okay, first week, whatever, launch week, whatever, $2 difference. Are you kidding me? Are you And again, I love Lord of the Rings. If this wasn't so expensive, I would be buying this. I would be buying this if this wasn't so expensive. A while ago, I kind of decided to, I decided to just stop supporting the Woobles. Well, bad way of phrasing it. That was a bad way of phrasing it. I decided to stop purchasing from the Woobles. I still plan to try to, do some of their patterns because I have a couple of patterns accessible to me. But at this point, I'm no longer going to be purchasing their patterns because $30+ for one kit. And again, like, I understand, like, if you look at, I'll have this linked down below in the description. If you look at the Sanrio bundles, which I'll link all of these down below in the description, but if you look at the Sanrio bundles, you have the big bundle, where that is, right now it's on sale for $290. It's usually $321, but this one has all of the main character, all of like the main popular characters, you know. So it includes Hello Kitty, Hello Kitty, My Melody, Cinnamon Roll, Cinnamon Roll, Keroppi, Pochaco, Pom Pom Purin, Little Twin Stars, Kiki, Little Twin Stars, Lola, Hello Kitty, Milk Bottle Beginner, My Melody, Rose Beginner, and then Cinnamon Roll Star Beginner. So it includes all of that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It includes 7 characters. So that makes sense why it's a little bit pricier. And then if you look at like just like the slightly more generic bundle, and this is Sanrio So Sweet bundle, this is normally $180. Right now it's on sale for $160. It's Keroppi, Pochaco, Pom Pom Purin, Little Twin Stars Kiki, and Little Twin Stars Lala. So again, like with these ones, it makes sense why it's a little bit more pricey, because you're getting in the one bundle 7 characters and the other bundle 5 characters. With Lord of the Rings ones, you're only getting 4 characters. So it being close to $200, like, again, like in relation, like the pricing makes sense, because like it makes sense like that. The price increases from this 4 to the 5 to the 7, you know, it makes sense mathematically, the price increases, but at the same time it's like it doesn't really, for me at least, it doesn't really sit right. And I do think, to kind of insert this a little bit, because I am trying to keep this as balanced as possible, I do think that the Woobles, I've done quite a few of their patterns now. I do think that their kids, that their patterns are very good for beginners. I do think that. There was at least one person who responded that said that it was hard for them to follow, but I think that was like a 1 in 4 to 5 situation, so it's like 25-ish%. So totally understandable why some people have a harder time following. And for me at least, when I did the first pattern with them, I had to watch things like 5 or 6 times, and it so bothered me. It still bothers me to this day how it's not just one cohesive video. And I understand that they're trying to show like one part at a time, so that's why each part is an individual clip, an individual video. However, I do think that once someone watches all the clips through, there should be an option for them to, sorry, I'm turning on my little gnome. I do think that there should be, either once they watch all of the clips, an option for them to watch the video as a whole, or have the option of being like, hey, do you prefer small clips for each part, or would you want a longer video? Because for me at least, I'm one of those people where I would just rather have a longer form video And that way I can pause, I can rewind, I can fast forward to whatever part I need to without having to keep pressing like next arrows or past arrows to get to a previous clip or to get to the next clip. Like, I'd rather have one singular video, or like one single large videos, or like one single large video, or two like medium videos, like slightly smaller videos. I'd rather have longer form videos for this. And again, I think there should be that option provided through the Woobles, because it's like they already do all of this recording for their patterns, so it wouldn't be too hard for them to put it all together in one video. But to go through, one moment, now to go through the two Reddit threads that I'll be focusing on in this video. Again, I looked at multiple, I just decided for the sake of this video to focus on two and those specific comments. This first one was from about 2 years ago, roughly. Unpopular opinion, question mark, about the Woobles crochet kits. Crochet rant. So I'm going to be reading this bit pretty much verbatim. I'll mention if I'm bringing up an opinion partway through, or my opinion, or a reaction. So this person says, I think the Woobles crochet kits are overrated, not to mention super expensive, to get just the right amount of yarn to make one tiny amigurumi, and links to beginning videos on how to make it. It's just not worth it. You just need $8 to $15 to buy yarn and a hook, and YouTube is free. There are plenty of beginner friendly videos on the internet, and there's literally no need to pay for the instructions. You can get the stuffing from old stuffed animals or pillows you already have, or use the excess yarn you have. And the faces can be made with yarn as well. Okay, opinion. I agree with that. And again, like, they are expensive. Like, the pricing like makes sense. Again, maybe it was a comment on this Reddit thread where it was about the convenience. But anyway, maybe it was one of these Reddit threads where it mentioned like you're buying for the convenience. But getting back to this person's Reddit thread, I've also seen other crochet kits that are way cheaper, like $10 to $12 cheap, for multiple patterns and more yarn to work with. I think those are a good price for people who are transitioning from learning basic crochet to move toward amigurumi. Selling to beginners to start with amigurumi, that's like throwing yourself in the deep end. It's generally hard for any beginner. Now this I like half agree with, where if you're looking at amigurumi who have the basic stitches like the Woobles, basic single crochet, increase, decrease stitches, then the Woobles is good for that. However, oh, my little gnome just died. Anyway, however, if you're looking at like amigurumi who require more complex stitches, then that's when, like, yes, I would agree. But like, again, it really depends on what kind of stitches are in the amigurumi you're talking about. So and I think it was Elise Myers who said this. I don't think I found the video for it. I tried looking for it, but she had said how amigurumi for her was a really great way to start crochet, because you have an end goal, a specific end goal that will be relatively quick to meet in comparison to some other stuff. Because I know a lot of people who would recommend granny squares, and I personally don't recommend granny squares to start off getting into crochet, because I have a couple accessible here. Like with granny squares, you have to figure out how to turn a circle into a square, which not complex, but at the same time it's like With this, you're doing like some sort of an increase to get the corners, and again, you're turning a circle into a square, which, excuse me, you know, that can be daunting. So, and if you're making like granny squares, if you're doing that to like make into a blanket or make into an accessory like a purse or making it into an outfit, that can be a little harder to see the deadline for, or to see the final product for. Like, I had the Epic Musical blanket. As I'm recording this, I'm not sure when that will be finished. But I have been crocheting when I did the Epic Musical blanket, when I finally started crocheting it. I had been crocheting for about a little over a year, in between the year to year and a half mark. And even doing that, even though granny squares are very simple, I was having a hard time seeing the end goal, which is why I had to take a break from it, because I was kind of getting frustrated and burnt out from it, because I was making so many granny squares and I wasn't quite seeing the end goal just yet. And whereas like these granny squares right here, these ones I'm using all one yarn and I'm making it for a blanket for a little boy. With this one, it's a little bit easier to see because I'm using one yarn, like I said, and I'm just doing a bunch of granny squares. Anyway, so it really depends on who you're talking to and if they like the longer process of crocheting, like doing granny squares and weaving, or making a blanket, starting off with a chain, foundation chain, and just weaving up. It really depends on who you're talking to and what their preference is, and if they're doing it to make something or if they're doing it to enjoy the process of crocheting. Either way, you're enjoying the process of crocheting, but it's like, what end goal are there? What's their end goal, or what's the reason for doing it? Whether or not they're selling. Okay, learning. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna skip a little bit of this. I get the high reward. You end up with something you made from your own two hands, but they are making you pay that much for the work you do. This person doesn't like that, and I agree. It's like paying $30 when I could spend $12 on a big thing of yarn and get multiple things out of that thing of yarn, and maybe anywhere between 5 to 10 for a hook or a set of hooks. I'm paying the same amount for something I'll get more uses out of. So let's see what else is. So you could argue that they are less wasteful because they are giving you just enough yarn to complete one project, so you don't waste the rest of the yarn you buy from a skein. Skein. I usually say skein. Which I sort of agree. But I think the plastic packaging and the shipping orders and everything that comes with it is just as, if not more, wasteful. Which I also kind of agree with, because it's like, if you're gonna go on the argument of it's not as wasteful as going out and buying a full thing of yarn or more and buying all that polyfill, crocheters are, from what I have seen and even done myself, crocheters are some of the best people at saving scrap yarn, like little tail ends. Do I have any scrap yarn? Not right now. Or I have some yarn that's not quite down to the scrap. But I've seen crocheters like save like these small pieces of yarn, a couple of inches, like to this long, and be like, what can I do with it? And then they'll make like a scrap blanket or a very little plushie, you know? So crocheters are some of the best people at saving yarn, at using all of the yarn that they buy, especially because, like, you know, $12 to 13, well, anywhere from 4 to 5 to 12 to 15, depending on the brand and how much yarn is in that specific skein and so on. It could be from anywhere from 4 to 5 to 12 to $15. Like, we understand how expensive yarn can get, so we are gonna try to use as much of that yarn as we can. And I've done this too. So, and even if it doesn't go into a specific project, we can use like tail ends for stuffing. I've done it. I've seen so many crocheters use it. If they have like some tail ends like that aren't big enough to go into a project, they'll save it and add it to stuffing or to fill up their amigurumi projects. So the last little comment was, overall I feel like they make crochet seem a lot less accessible and scary for people trying to start. So they want you to buy their kits because it seems easier, but either way they have you start with something so hard like amigurumi. Again, it really depends on the specific stitches in the specific amigurumi, and from what I can see, for the most part, for the figures themselves, most of the time their stitches are single crochet. But again, you will find amigurumi with slightly more complex stitches. So some of the comments, this one person says, my wife learned to crochet because of the Woobles kit. She had a terrible time getting it to click before, but something about the Woobles kit worked. I like that it started with a magic circle and the yarn is very beginner friendly. So doing one to get your feet wet isn't bad, and it can get people into the hobby. Everyone learns differently. Another person responded, everyone learns differently. I bought several Woobles kits, and it taught me how to crochet. I really like having the videos to guide me, clear instructions, and everything I need conveniently in one bag. I don't know anyone who crochets, so the kits taught me like a friend would. One person said, I need written instructions. I hate that they do video only. I can't always just pull out my phone and be glued to a video when I want to learn. For this person, I doubt this person is watching it, but they do have a book of their patterns. So there's a great PDF pattern available from a link at the top right of every kit's video page. Okay. They have them, but they're half-assed, just like their videos. Better off buying a book from Hobby Lobby. Don't buy from Hobby Lobby. Go to Joann's while Joann's is still open, and go to Michael's. Go to Etsy. Go to Barnes & Noble, because Barnes & Noble has some crochet kits as well. Don't do Hobby Lobby. Okay, so I bought one Woobles kit a couple months ago, then another for some extra practice. Since then, I've made multiple amigurumis, 2 tops, a bag, a bunch of accessories, and so on. Woobles kit really helped me understand everything and thoroughly got me hooked, pun intended. Nice one. And I found cheaper kits online, but none were as highly rated as the Woobles kits, and as a beginner, I was overwhelmed and wanted the easiest way to learn. Again, it's about the convenience. I don't know where I read that, even though it was kind of like the general consensus over on TikTok and Instagram, and I know I read it in a comment to one of the threads. But it's about the convenience rather than the materials. So yeah. So I'm going to move on to the next one. We're already 40 minutes deep into this video. Excuse me. I was just wiping away a fuzzy from my phone. So, opinions on the Woobles. Discussion. I understand it gets plenty of people into the craft, and I love that. But $40 for a few tiny skeins of t-shirt yarn, a hook, and a magic ring seems seemingly insane, even with the small business tax. How in the world is that $30 to $40. You could buy everything at a craft store for just under $5. Just under $5 is debatable. Just because, again, like, if you look at, I know Michael's has a lot of small skeins of yarn that are like kind of in that $4 to $5 range. So you would buy the yarn for $5, and then one single hook can be anywhere from like 2 to 5, so maybe 10. And then if you're doing amigurumi, like polyfill can be about 10 to 20 roughly. So like you can get a lot of extra material for the same price as the Woobles. Anyway, where was I? At a craft store, and most of the patterns are a tube. Okay, that makes sense. Also, I don't understand the idea of starting with the magic ring already made. Why not start with a chain 2 loop or not amigurumi? Most of the Woobles are just ugly as well. I think they can be cute. It's very, very basic convenience kits for beginners. I feel the t-shirt yarn is one of the worst types of yarn for amigurumi. From what I understand, I haven't used a lot of their yarn, but their yarn is intended for beginner friendly use. I didn't like the tip, like the ends of the yarn where you would cut it, you know. I kind of didn't like that from their yarn. And I haven't seen a Wooble even on their promotional content that I actually like the look of. They have these giant holes between the stitches that I hate. Does anyone love them? Any other thoughts? So let's see. If you look at the prices of t-shirt yarn, you'll find that you're not paying for the materials, you're paying for the convenience, and that's what those kits are about. This is where I read it. The beginner doesn't have to find the yarn. I hope they get the correct hook size, learn the magic ring, and then if they don't like it, they have an entire big ball of yarn versus one kit and hook. They're purely a convenience. I definitely agree with that, just because like I agree. Like I said before, you're not buying for the materials, you're buying, and like this person says, you're not buying the materials, you're buying the convenience of the kit. Another person says, I like the Woobles. It's how I learned to crochet about a year ago. This post was 2 months ago. It's how I learned to crochet about a year ago. The patterns are straightforward and easy. The yarn allows a beginner to easily see the stitches they make. Okay, that makes sense. The video tutorials have both left and right-handed crochet. The video tutorials they have are for both. I'm not reading the sentence right, but essentially they have tutorials available for both lefties and righties. You're 100% paying for the convenience of the kit and the instruction videos. So we get so many Woobles discussion posts on here. They're overpriced, and the markup is for the brand name and bundled packaging. I use a cheaper version called Love Not Pop, and that's how I learned to crochet. Just seemed really low stakes to enter that way, and it coming with everything you need was nice, so you don't have to go in knowing much. This person has a little bit of a long comment, I'm not gonna say, but overall they say it's helpful. Everyone thinks the item should be priced as the cost of materials plus some markup, but really pricing is dictated by what the market will bear. True. One person says, why do you care? I'm genuinely asking, why does it bother you? Okay. So someone responded, because the post is tagged as a discussion post, meaning OP genuinely wants a discussion. Are you sure you're not the one bothered? I get we see a lot of Woobles posts on here, but you seem a bit irritated. Yeah. Is it a discussion post or a rant? It sounds like a rant. Why do these stupid things exist? Does anyone actually like them? So that's their opinion, you know. So suppose someone does like them, why do they have to define liking it? I like the Woobles because I have ADHD and it's difficult for me to following a pattern without step-by-step instructions, where to get the yarn, which size, etc. Okay, so this person was saying that, like, the OP, the original poster in their posts, kind of came off as an attack rather than a discussion. I don't agree with that. Like, some of the comments, like, especially the one that they brought up, was a little bit unwarranted, but again, it's the internet, so you have to take things with a grain of salt. This person could very well have meant, they could have very well not meant that as an attack. They could have, but, like, you can't take it at face value. We're on the internet. So okay, so they were going back and forth. And another person responded, they posted asking genuine questions while sharing their take on it. They do not have a favorable opinion of the product, but they were open to hearing alternative points of view. Again, I agree. A rant wouldn't be so open-ended. That's true. Plus, I feel the exposure is more than the company deserves. It's a trendy cash grab that dilutes the art. I watched some of their videos while trying to learn and wanted to give up. 70% of the video felt like bloat. They don't show the impact or reasoning of the specific methods, and the stuff didn't even turn out very well. I can forgive basic looking stuff under the training premise, but they don't even teach much. Like, I agree, like, they teach the basics and that's it. And, like, above comments earlier, it's convenience rather than actually detailed stuff. And you can find amazing patterns on Etsy for amigurumi that are way better than the Woobles. So another person said, I'm not a fan of them myself. I think they're overpriced. And with the MCR, and as the OP already started, beginners have a lot of problems if it pulls out. But I do like that they get people into the hobby in general. It is convenient to have it all in there together, but I feel like you could get everything plus some just buying the item separately. I agree, 100%. Okay, you actually can't. That's true. Anyway, so that is basically it for both of those Reddit threads. I do think that the Woobles is overpriced, and again, it's about the convenience. It's about the convenience for it, rather than learning something super detailed or getting a really nice looking amigurumi project. So let me know what your comments down below are. Like, I agree with a lot of the comments that were saying, like, it is about a convenience, but it does get a lot of people into the craft, which is great. I agree with that. It gets a lot of people into crochet, and that is something that the Woobles did do successfully and is doing successfully. I do think they're overpriced. Some of the licensed stuff, it sort of makes sense, but I don't, like I was saying earlier with the prices of the Lord of the Rings ones, like the $2 difference and $200 for 4 different characters. Even if, like, with the other one, I think I named it Lord of the Rings 2, it's the collector's one. Even with all the extra little bits, it's like you're essentially just getting 4 kits and the convenience, and I'm not going to spend $400 for 4 kits when I can find something that's a little bit better looking on Etsy. So again, it's about the convenience, it's about teaching the basics, and not necessarily about getting a beautiful looking piece at the end. I'm going to cut this video here because we're reaching the 15-minute mark. If you have any opinions on this, let me know down below in the comments, and let's keep any discussion civil, because at the end of the day, this is a very subjective discussion, but at the same time, at the end of the day, like I mentioned, convenience, and it gets people into the craft. So again, if you have any opinions, comment down below. Keep it civil. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.